Hey guys, first off, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, on Instagram, and also check me out on Patreon. I set up a Patreon. It's only $1 a month. If you guys appreciate my content, I spend a lot of time doing this. Yada yada, sales stuff. Um, Donate responsibly. If you can't afford it, don't worry about it. Don't give money that you don't have. It's not a big deal. Um, but in the future, I'll be talking more about my Patreon. Um, as if I could make this thing kind of a full-time thing, then maybe I can kind of travel the United States and go to different gyms, talk to coaches, do interviews, and more fun. What I think would be more fun is actually sparring fighters, and kind of getting in the ring with them, and kind of getting my ass kicked, but I think it'd be a lot of fun to do it for the channel. And you guys can kind of see that I'm, not completely full of shit. I know how to box. I've boxed for a long time. But that would be in the future. For now, if you can support me with $1 a month, man, that should be dope. Anyway, let's get into the film study. And we're going to be talking about Garcia and how his skills pertain to Shawn Porter for his upcoming fight in just a few weeks that I'm insanely excited about. Thurman Garcia was a great fight. Thurman smashed Garcia. I know a lot of people thought it was close, but Garcia, he missed a lot of punches, and his offense never really caught up or caught on with Thurman. And I'll talk about why in this film study and talk about a lot of the other things. But let's go ahead and get into Danny Garcia's guard, right? So the first thing I want you to notice is how slow it is. Keith Thurman feels really comfortable throwing this punch at him on this timing, right? And we'll talk about Danny Garcia's timing later, how he always fights off the front foot, and that's a flaw for him. But look at how he's kind of standing straight up. He's got a little bit of this, but notice he only has an active guard when he leans on that front foot, right? And then he steps. Other than that, his guard is pretty stale. He's very static. And as you saw right here, when he throws this jab to the body, no layers, no feinting, no nothing. He just shoots the jab like for no reason. And again, Keith Thurman finding timing on him. He gets caught with the jab first, right? But trying to time Danny Garcia on that stepping forward. But as you can see, not really an active guard. He's basically a stationary target. And the reason that this is important is because of the fact that it means that he has to respect the feints more often than his opponents are going to. If a fighter has really good head movement, right, if you feint him, right, and they slip, they can just move off the line. Whereas Danny Garcia, because he's stuck here, it's going to be a lot more difficult for him to get into motion, but also his opponents are going to be able to they're going to be able to predict much easier what defensive posture he makes because he's always on the line here, and every time you throw a jab, he catches the jab, right? He knows how to catch a jab or slip a jab, so he's going to do it the same way. Whereas if he had an active guard and say he was here, right, he might slip this way, right? Or if his head was here, he slips this way. And with an active guard, you have so much more of a versatile defense. If you're slipping here, right, maybe you come with the left hook, right? Or if you're here and they shoot the jab, maybe you slip this way and you shoot a right hand. The avenues for fighting off of that timing are just so much more varied versus when your head is on the line. Now, I'm kind of getting into a little debate with someone in the comments. They kind of don't believe me about the active guard and how important it is. But as we go through this video, I want you to see how stale, how the lack of an active guard takes away a lot of the imagination from Danny Garcia's offense. As you see, Keith Thurman predicts that he's gonna move forward there on that timing, takes a step back. Then he predicts that on the next step, Danny Garcia, so he steps forward, and now he takes another step, that Danny Garcia is going to throw a punch because he's on this timing, because he doesn't have an active guard, because he has only one way to move forward, right? It's the only way that he has motion when he's moving in the ring, and he's able to counter him over the top with that right hand. Now, he doesn't land it, right? But that's not the point, right? The point is that he's able to start timing him and set up these punches. As you can see, Danny Garcia tries to shoot this jab on him, and Keith Thurman sees it from a mile away because every time Danny moves, because he doesn't have an active guard, he's telegraphing that he's throwing a punch, right? rather than being able to walk on the line, right? Oh, and then pivot off or do this and give some head movement, give some different looks, right? Maybe he slips this way, slips that way, and shoots a right hand. He can do all that off the front foot, but as you can see, he doesn't do any of that stuff because he doesn't have an active guard, so he telegraphs all of his attacks. And as you see, he starts moving forward. And look at how easily he's being controlled by Keith Thurman. Now, Keith Thurman doesn't do this a lot or enough, right? Again, controlling Danny Garcia, keeping him in his own guard. And then Danny Garcia shoots these jabs, and Keith Thurman is easily able to take a step back and counter him. Easily able to take a step back and get away from that jab. Easily able to get away from this one because it's on the same timing. And I think this is going to be something that's very important for Porter to pick up on when he fights Danny Garcia, because he was able to time Adrian Broner, who is much faster than Danny Garcia. Now, Danny Garcia does have a little ace in the hole, right? A little bit of craft, right? Understanding that when you're getting timed there, you need to make an adjustment. And so instead of shooting the jab, he goes for a left hook to the body. As you can see, Thurman thinks it's going to be a jab at first, stays in the high guard, thinking that it's going to be a jab, and winds up eating a left hook to the body. A little bit of craft there, but then again, one of the problems, Keith Thurman starts picking that jab off to the body and then coming in with his own counters because of the fact that Danny Garcia, he doesn't layer his offense with anything. He's only fighting on that timing. He doesn't feint. He doesn't use probes. He doesn't get a look at his opponent's defense or figure out what they're going to do. He winds up subject to a lot of counters. Again, stepping forward with that jab, easily timing him with the pull counter, but luckily for him, for Danny Garcia, he gets his arm in the way of that shot. You know, just a little bit of control blocking that shot and makes it come just short, you know, of landing the same as the last one. But this time, not so lucky. Again, not layering his offense, coming in with the jab, eating the jab counter, putting it on him, and then coming over the top with that right hand. And I'm not sure that right hand lands, but I'm pretty sure that the left hook lands. Nah, maybe it looks like it kind of cuffs him on the back of the head. But as you can see, you know, oh, this is not supposed to be here. I'll come back to this clip, 43 seconds. Now we're going to look at Danny Garcia's defense as it pertains to Porter, or pertains. So Porter does a lot of the same stepping in, flashing the lead hand, and then throwing the right hand. And in this instance, Danny Garcia says, oh, I'm going to catch it, catch the hook, and then counter the right hand. And he misses there, but one thing that he does do really well is he catches him with the right hand after. Boom, catches him with the right hook right there, right through the guard. And now the most important part of this, and this is the part that Danny Garcia is going to have to focus on in his fight with Shawn Porter, is look at how he moves off the line after and stops Keith Thurman from landing that shot. Beautiful. Let's just watch it one more time. Boom, and then pivots off the line just a little bit, just enough to keep him off, you know. Then Keith Thurman comes in again, right, flashing that lead hand, getting him to react or go for it. And again, because of the fact that Danny Garcia doesn't have an active guard, he's not feinting, he's not probing, he has no control over Keith Thurman. He just has no idea what Keith Thurman's going to do or how to keep him from doing it other than counterpunching with his layer defense. He has to respect everything that Keith Thurman does, and then winds up getting caught with that left hook. He does do something really good, which I really like. He bodies up with Keith Thurman. He tries to close the distance here. Keith Thurman's able to kind of predict it, right? But then he's able to follow that up with his own right hand. But I think that moving off the line from Shawn Porter and also closing the distance and keeping your hands to yourself, you know, not trying to tie Shawn Porter up. He's very strong on the inside, but keeping your hands close to yourself so that you can throw your counter punches, right? Like he did that right hand right there. Not tying him up is going to be important. But again, doing a good job. Oops, I don't know why I went so far. He flashes that shot, tries to come in with the right hand, and Danny Garcia does a good job of moving off the line. This is going to be very key for him throughout the course of the fight. Now, a lot of other problems, again, Danny Garcia, because he has no control over Keith Thurman. He's not feinting, he's not probing, he's not getting anything done. When Keith Thurman flashes that lead hand, Danny Garcia goes to catch it and then leaves himself open to that right hand. It doesn't land, and again, very similarly to Shawn Porter, Keith Thurman has really good head movement, right? And makes Danny Garcia miss that left hook and then comes back with his own left hook there, catching him with that shot. Again, Danny Garcia has to respect the feints because of the fact that he doesn't have any control over his opponent, right? He's not controlling that lead hand and occupying it, so he doesn't know that it's going to be a feint or when it's going to be a feint. And again, doesn't know when it's going to be a feint and continuing to only uses defensive layers as counter punches. Doing a good job here, right? Getting a piece of that jab here. Oops, getting a piece of that jab here again. Respecting the fact that it's not going to be it's going to be a real punch, catching it and then landing a left hook right there, stopping Thurman in his tracks. But it doesn't work out every time for him, as we see here. Keith Thurman, he goes to counter that shot, and then he goes to counter with the left hook again, and then gets hit with a body shot, kind of in the back, but then a left hook upstairs. Again, because his defensive layer, when he's not moving off the line, is catching the lead hand and countering the right hand with his left hook. But as you can see, it doesn't work there. Now, again, every time he flashes that lead hand, when he flashes that lead hand, Danny Garcia catches it and then tries to counter the right hand with his left hook. Now in this next sequence, Keith Thurman steps forward and baits Danny Garcia into thinking that it's going to be a probing left hand, right? The same feint, and because Danny Garcia is not feinting, he's not probing, he's not controlling Keith Thurman, he has to respect that might be a punch and block it. And Keith Thurman feints him, and instead of using the flashing the lead hand, he changes the timing a little bit and leads with the right hand this time and catches Danny Garcia with a brilliant right hand. Boom, and just wobbles the crap out of him. Now, we're going to go back to that clip here. As you can see, he feints him here, but instead of committing to the feint like he was before, he gets Danny Garcia to think it's going to be a catch and counter style, right? And then catches him, boom, right on the chin with that shot. And this is the problem with Danny Garcia's defense when it pertains to Shawn Porter, because Shawn Porter does have good feinting, good probing, and he understands how to pick up on patterns. So I think he's going to pick up on the fact that Danny Garcia is looking to counter him with that left hook and be able to set traps for him. And we're going to kind of play through the rest of the video, doing a good job of tying up there. But as you can see, again, still has to respect the left hook, right? That it's going to be a real shot, and then time it with the left hook. He does a great job there, but again, if that was just a feint and he didn't commit to that left hook, he would have been wide open. He would have been wide open for that right hand, just like he was a second ago. So it's very curious that he continues to fall for this trap. And again, Keith Thurman feinting with the jab, Danny Garcia catching it, and then Keith Thurman shooting a jab to the body and ducking the left hook. Again, making a very simple adjustment because he understands how predictable Danny Garcia's defense is. And he does this throughout the entire night. Flash the lead hand, Danny Garcia tries to get a piece of the jab, and then counters with the left hook, and almost gets caught with the right hand there. He does wind up coming out on top in this exchange, right? Which says all kinds of crazy things about Keith Thurman. And now you guys thought that I was, well, I'll talk about this a little bit after. I'll talk about this at the end of the video. But again, Danny Garcia has no control over Keith Thurman. He's not feinting. He's not probing. He's not giving him any different looks. So when Keith Thurman feints him, he has to respect the feint. He has to respect the feint. So he turns away from that right hand, and then Keith Thurman walks him into that left hook, and then almost catches him with another shot. Again, feinting him. Keith Thurman, Danny Garcia has to respect the feint again because he has no control over him. Catches that shot, misses his counter, and again, Shawn Porter has great head movement, just like Keith Thurman here. And then boom, he's able to walk Danny Garcia into another right hand and then another right hand, not only because of the timing when Danny Garcia comes in, but because of the fact that Danny Garcia is still trying to counter that right hand with his left hand. Very predictable defense, and that's through 2 straight rounds. And that's basically exactly how the fight goes between Danny Garcia and Keith Thurman throughout the whole fight. Now, as we saw, his defensive layer is countering, and because he doesn't feint and he doesn't probe and he doesn't control his opponents, I think that I think Shawn Porter is in a very good position to take advantage of these flaws in Danny Garcia's game because of the fact that Danny Garcia has to respect the feints. He has to respect them, and either he needs to catch them and move off the line, right, boom, and pivot off the line, or he has to be 100% sure, every time that Shawn Porter throws a shot that he's not going to, that he's not feinting, and catch them and not basically. And I'll go ahead and play some more of these. But as you watch it, the idea here is that it's so easy to get Danny Garcia out of position with feinting because he doesn't control the space, right? And now feinting, getting yourself out of position is when you're not in position to land, or you're not in a neutral position, right? And he's able to get Danny Garcia to commit to something before he commits to something, and then catch him with big shots. And I think that Shawn Porter is very likely going to be able to do that all night. Now, I'm still going to do a prediction video for this fight. After the weekend, I'll do it on Monday. But I have a few more videos that I want to talk about that I'm going to do. I'm going to do a video on Danny Garcia's inside fighting because that's something we haven't talked about, and then Shawn Porter's inside fighting and how good he is on the inside. Because so far, all we've talked about is how they fight on the outside, and so far, I'm definitely favoring Shawn Porter. Anyway, I'm also going to be doing another video now that I have footage of Keith Thurman versus Danny Garcia, which I've been looking for a long time, ever since I so rightfully criticized Errol Spence for being kind of basic. And I'm going to do a full breakdown of probably the first 3 rounds of Keith Thurman versus Danny Garcia, and I am going to lay into these clowns. People think these guys are so good, and the way that I talk and analyze boxing, they're just not up to snuff. And as we saw in this film study, Danny Garcia has a very basic offense, very basic defense. He has no active guard. He doesn't know how to control his opponent. He does move off the line very well after he counters, or after he tries to counter, boom, and moving off the line. Even though he doesn't do it properly with the proper body mechanics, he kind of follows his left hook to pivot out. But very basic. Danny Garcia is a very, very basic fighter. He needs a better coach. He needs to move on. But when I film study for Keith Thurman, you guys, I don't know if you like Keith Thurman, but you're gonna be mad at me. They're gonna make. This is why Errol Spence looks so good. Because fighters like these guys make Errol Spence look like the best thing since sliced bread. Now, Errol Spence is a good fighter, you guys. Don't get me wrong. He's a good fighter. Danny Garcia is a good fighter. Keith Thurman's a good fighter. But their skills, a lot of them, while I think Errol Spence is definitely the best of these 3, their skills are basic. Danny Garcia's and Keith Thurman's. Keith Thurman, we don't want to talk about Keith Thurman's bad stuff. But anyway, I'll talk about it later. This shouldn't have been 18 minutes. Like, comment, and subscribe. Follow me on Twitter. Check that Patreon out. It's only $1. If you can afford it, you can help me out. If you enjoy my content, I'll do my best to continue putting it out. And the more money I make on Patreon, the more videos I'll be able to do eventually, as I'll be able to, take time off of work to do this kind of stuff. Anyway, yeah, like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know what you think, guys. Thank you.